It being 7:01 PM on Wednesday, May 17th, 2023, we'll begin this evening's Select Board meeting. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being none. Next item on the agenda, Treasurer John Kittredge, general obligation bond anticipation notes sale. That be Mr. Ward.
We'll just move,
Yeah,
go back to it.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, next item, we'll come back to that. Next item, Mr. Engano, street closure request for Historical Society's Cruise in Clinton. If you want to come up to the table and share some details.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. Clinton Historical Society received a grant from the Cultural Council several months ago, quite a few months ago, to do a summer concert. It's kind of like harking back to the old days of Harold Van Ass on the steps of the town hall and that kind of thing, with a few little twists. Main thing being, it's called Cruisin' Clinton, and it's going to be a car show, classic car show, muscle cars. We hope in front of the town hall. We have a DJ, Ron Boston, and we also have hired Tony Funches, who's been in Clinton several times, but he's the former lead singer of the Platters. And we've had him here for the Harold Van Ass tribute, and we had him at Holder. I think he's been at the Senior Center, the Corcoran House. He lives in Marlboro. And I don't know how old of a gentleman he is, but I mean, what an absolute voice he's got. And so part of the program would be the old cars, people looking around, and the owners showing them off, of course. And then music from the 50s and 60s, and then this short performance by Tony Funches. So originally it was going to be in front of the Holder. That's what we wanted. Now we're working on the portico. So that's not going to work too much. And so we thought about in front of the town hall. So what I'm asking you in the letter that you received is, could we have the town hall from Church Street, from Walnut to Chestnut, closed off for that time? It would be Thursday, July 20. Probably altogether, maybe 6 to 9. Shouldn't be any later than that anyway, but that's kind of a rough estimate. And then we also need a rain date, simply because those classic cars aren't going to come out if it's raining, or if it's actually cloudy. So the next rain date would be the next week, which would be Thursday, July 27th. So that's what I'm here to ask for your permission to, and plans are still up in the air. This is, from what I understand, the first thing obviously we need to do to get the place, and then we'll solidify other things. I've talked to someone in Phil Duffy's office. I talked to the Board of Health. I talked to Joyce. And so, plans are coming along, but nothing is solidified until we have our place.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming and giving us plenty of time to review and approve. Is there any
Yeah,
questions for
I
Bill?
do.
Sure.
Terry, are you looking to do some food, or is it?
I'm not sure how far along we are with that, Mary Rose. I figured we'd probably have to just bring in like some trucks like they've done for some downtown things. I don't know, the Sterling Street Brewery or what. The Board of Health guys told me, I guess they have a complete file of like food trucks and
Right.
those types of things that have permission already, a license paid for already. So we're trying to figure that out too. So yeah, we would have certainly at least an ice cream truck and probably a beer truck and maybe something else. But we're not really talking about spilling over necessarily into the park, but I'm sure people will want to listen to the old music. Maybe that's where they'll sit. I don't think we'll have many dancers in the street or anything like that, but so that's why that's still up in the air. But yes, we would certainly have something like that, yes.
Mr. Chair, hey Terry, thanks for coming. Has anyone talked to the church right adjacent to the town hall, just to make sure that they don't have any events going on at the same time?
I have not, no.
Okay, and
I didn't.
even if they do, I would still be in favor of closing the street off, but just would ask you to give them like some advance notice that it is coming, just so like the day of, they're not like surprised.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, no, that would be fine, yes, and I know they have activities, they didn't think they had them on Thursday night.
Okay.
But, I know Saturdays it's very difficult, and parking is really tough on like a Saturday morning, but, I certainly can do that.
Okay.
Have you spoke to Lee Abdella in?
Yes,
Okay,
she was
so-
the one I spoke to.
Perfect.
And we talked a little bit about it, she gave me some ideas, as did Joyce, as did the Board of
Excellent.
Health. And again, I've run many, many events for the Holder Memorial, 42 years now, but this is kind of a little bit bigger than I'm used to. So I know there's a lot of, things I have to kind of nail down. But I guess number one would be getting the spot.
Sure.
Excellent. Yeah, if there's anything we can do to support the first go-around, it sounds like a great idea.
Wear your Bobby socks and, two-tone shoes there, whatever. Come on down.
So you looking for approval tonight for the street closure?
I would, yes,
Yeah,
I'd love
I mean,
that. I don't know if it takes a long time or not, but,
As long as it's just, we word it as contingent upon approval from the police department and the fire department.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
I sent the Chief Coyne the same
Yep.
letter I sent you guys, just to inform him that this is what we were thinking of doing, kind
Sure.
of thing. But-
Okay, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that contingent upon approval of the police department and fire department, that the select board approve the closure, the temporary block off from in front of the town hall on Church Street, from Walnut Street to Chestnut Street on Thursday, July 20th, from, would you need the closure to be before 6 to set up?
Yeah, I'd say yes.
5 o'clock?
probably. So, yeah, maybe
Okay.
that would be better.
Closure from 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock, because you'll probably need some time to
Sure,
break down.
okay.
And with also a rain date of July 27th, the same time, 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Thank you, and best of
Oh, we
luck.
gotta vote. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I give you this too? On this Saturday, we're doing a cleanup.
Perfect.
Thank you.
It's probably raining, unfortunately, but it's the Rotary Club, and we're doing a cleanup Clinton, the parade route. The biggest problem right now in this town is the town is too clean. And it really is not. I've been going around looking for trash, and I'm having a real problem finding it.
Do you want to leave a copy for,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
they'll be here. This is great, and we'll give it a plug.
There's two there. Why don't I give you the rest of them?
Perfect.
But if you'd like to help us, we're meeting at 9 o'clock in front of the police station, and I don't think it'll take us more than an hour, to be quite honest with you. All right?
Excellent.
Thank you again.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thanks, Terry.
All right, do we want to go back to the general obligation bond anticipation note?
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The treasurer collector had submitted information that's in the packet for the vote that the board needs to take. It's just a rollover of bond anticipation notes. It was from last year, it was issued, and it's up in June. So this is just a rollover of those same notes. So it's a 4% to Fidelity Capital Investments. They're the ones that put in the bid for the sale for $2.95 million.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we award the bid from Fidelity Capital Markets for the sale of $2,950,000 in general obligation bond anticipation notes at 4% interest rate for the period of 1 year.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda, we have Mr. Duffy, Director of Community and Economic Development. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Before I introduce my item of business, when Terry was standing over here talking about the townwide cleanup, or the parade route cleanup, I know he was stepping away from the mic. As a fellow Rotarian, I just want to say into the mic that it is this Saturday from 9 to 12. People will be meeting at the police station, so that if you're interested in participating in the cleanup of the parade route, the meeting place is the police station. The meeting time is 9 o'clock.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm here today to seek your permission to apply to the one-stop portal for 2, possibly 3 small grant applications. I broached 2 of these applications with you probably about 2 months ago when you were meeting in the auditorium. Looking to make application for a series of small grants, technical assistance grants, and I think in the agenda they indicate the 3 projects that we'd be applying for funding. One that we discussed at the greatest length at the last meeting was an application to the underutilized properties program to apply for funding to do pre-development work with an eye towards funding to rehabilitate 329 High Street, Jean's Towing. So these would be funds that would be used to bring in an architect to do an assessment of existing conditions and a code assessment of the building, including building codes, fire safety codes, and accessibility codes, to design and prepare a set of documents for the rehabilitation of the building, including all the mechanical systems, the weather systems, doors and windows, and exterior details, and bring it to basically a level kind of in what they would call a tenant rough out, not to finish the interior, but to have the systems in place for final build-up by an ultimate user, and to prepare a preliminary estimate of cost for that work. This is a product that we could use whether we choose in the following year to apply for state funds to do the project on our own, or if we choose to RFP the project beforehand to include in a RFP, so that there'd be kind of an understanding on the part of respondents as to, if not specifically, what we'll be looking for in terms of attention to the building, but at least generally what we'll be looking for. I'm waiting for some responses from architecture firms on just a response to a broad scope of work for cost estimating and budgeting. I'm estimating that it's probably going to be something between $60,000 and $70,000 in funding. I'd like to make that application to the underutilized properties program. Second property, which we also discussed briefly in the auditorium, was 172 Sterling Street. You may recall, probably, I guess in January, the board authorized us to enter into an agreement with Mass Development to undertake an assessment of that property with an eye towards site development, site layout, how the site could be ultimately laid out while minimizing development expense related to existing environmental conditions. I was expecting the rough draft of that final assessment today. It's been pushed out to Friday. So I don't know what those recommendations are going to be. I've got an indication in our discussion that the recommendation will be for some targeted assessment of, and I'm going to guess it's either the areas where there's nickel and chromium or the area where there's arsenic, where there may be some building done down the road, and they want to know more about, characterize that more specifically so that we get a better idea of what costs might be associated with working in those areas. That's my guess. That's based on the discussions we've had. But we will be following up our receipt of that assessment and those recommendations with an application to the Brownfields Fund for some work that, based on the discussions we've had, will be targeted towards additional assessment. I don't know what that cost will be because I don't have those recommendations yet. We'll have to very quickly turn them around, develop a scope of work, and reach out to people we've worked with in the past to get a budget for that. But it would be, again, money for technical assessment. And the third project, which is not definitive, but it occurs to me as something we might want to go for. The state has a program called the Massachusetts Downtown Initiatives Program. It's intended to provide technical assistance to towns of any type, really, any town that's not a city in the state, for technical assistance related to downtown revitalization. We used this grant in 2018 for the wayfinding program. They do a wide range of activities: parking, design guidelines, market assessments, placemaking, all those kinds of things. I am interested in seeing if we can write a successful application to do a specific kind of market analysis using new kinds of data that have recently become available. And there's data provided by a company called Placer.ai, and it's remarkable data in some respects. And I should preface this by saying I've read dozens of downtown marketing assessments, and I've always been kind of underwhelmed, based on the data and kind of the very routine, commonplace recommendations that are made. I'll give an example. In 1999, the town of Clinton did a downtown market analysis, and it was exhaustive, and it was impressive. But the recommendations were to attract small-scale retailers like camera shops, record shops, a handful of other businesses that don't even exist anymore. So rather than look at something that's granular, this new placer data is voyage and travel data. So it uses data received from pinging phones, so that if you have an app on your phone and you give it permission to share data, it is tracking you as you go along. This data can tell us who is traveling through Clinton. It can tell us how frequently they travel to Clinton. They can't tell us who. It can't tell us that Joe Smith is coming through Clinton. It's anonymized data that tells you who's traveling through town, from where going to where, and can give you some other information in terms of, community demographics, personal demographics, spending habits. If we can fashion a compelling argument, I would like to know that information, because if we're trying to expand our market and expand it in the region, it'd be very helpful to know who's actually already passing through Clinton. And the idea would be that if we had an understanding of that, on one side we might have an idea, basically correlating or inferring out of some of the baseline demographic data, what kind of businesses we might try to attract, but more importantly, who we should be, how we might target marketing, or target kind of awareness of what goes on in downtown in a more efficient way, with the premise that if people are already traveling through Clinton, if we can get them to maybe not travel in a straight line, it can provide an opportunity to local businesses. So that is that's a $25,000 grant. That's the standard award, is the fixed award across all of that. I don't know yet if I can make that compelling argument based on the questions in the application to make that work. But if we have time, and I can, I'd like to see if that's something we want to do. So because the application is June 2nd, and because you're not meeting, you may not be meeting for June 2nd, I wanted to come before you today to get your permission to apply and to prepare letters that basically attest to the same for the chairman to sign prior to the submittal of the application on June 2nd.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, I just have one question. Is the game plan still, just refresh my memory, so 329 High Street, that's the old Jean's Auto,
Yep.
on the corner. The game plan for that, still the long-term game plan, still to have that be some sort of like a pop-up market, like headquarters, for lack of a better term? I think we discussed it, like it wasn't
did.
official, but we
No,
discussed
yeah,
it as like an
and we still have
idea.
some more work to do, is to
Yeah.
understand what our capacity is to administer, to basically run that.
Yep,
That's definitely in play, and that will
Okay.
definitely mention the application. At the same time, though, if we felt, I should say that, well, no, I will wait till the next time we speak, but we got the first round of test results for soil gas, indoor air quality, and groundwater at Jean's Towing, and very, very encouraged by the test results. But I will wait till the LSP has double-checked all the responses to tell you more.
okay,
Certainly, that is certainly on the table, and it's something that we will be pursuing, trying to flesh out to understand better.
yep,
That said, it's not 100%, and if we have the opportunity to achieve our goal, which is to basically create something engaging and attractive at that northern gateway by conveying the property via an RFP
sure,
to a user who can demonstrate that they have a business that can do that and the resources to accomplish it,
sure,
we shouldn't rule that out.
agreed. Okay.
For the downtown marketing assessment, what would you guesstimate about what that would cost?
Well,
in
this
general?
grant, and that's the other thing about this, because this grant is fixed at $25,000. We had a few discussions with the company that has this product. But they were at Main Streets USA, who had their national conference in Boston this year, and they were swamped the week after we spoke to them, but we actually spoke to them before. The product is too expensive for us. Their pricing strategy really doesn't, it's priced for early adopters, who are bigger than we are, quite frankly. I think it would have been $18,000 a year. So, and I know that they're having a conversation with the state, but if the state's ready to move on that kind of data, then it would be captured in the technical assistance award.
Okay, so just to say that again, so it's,
Let me take a step back. You asked about, the question was, what does that data cost, or what was that?
what would, so the assessment that you're suggesting, what would be a ballpark figure on what that assessment would cost? I know that you're saying, the initiative program would provide up to 25,000. What would you expect the total number to be?
I was planning to apply for the 25,000. And speaking with that program, you actually don't apply with the cost. You apply with the preliminary scope of work. They select they can select the consultant, so.
All right, so let me backtrack. Forget the downtown initiative program. How much would it cost to do a downtown marketing assessment?
Like we talked about?
Like you're talking about, what would that cost the town of Clinton?
About
No program.
I'm gonna guess, if we purchase the data, I'd probably guess between $40,000 and $45,000.
Okay, so with that downtown initiative, where it could contribute up to 25,000, could that be a justifiable use for the ARPA funds that have come in, where that, geared towards downtown revitalization, to be able to support businesses within town?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. I
mean, because ultimately, it's aimed towards
Yeah.
marketing the businesses we have in Clinton and what resources Clinton has, so.
The reason I'm not sure is because, first of all, that justification, that we'd have to make sure that it's embedded in the ARPA guidelines, but we'd also have to tie it all back to COVID impact. And that's really not, that hasn't been the way of thinking about it so far.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking revitalization, that aspect, but yeah, understood.
I should say that if the Board of Selectmen, because we have the Community Development Fund, if the Board of Selectmen is comfortable with us proposing to make a contribution to that project from the Community Development Fund, we could put that in the application that might be viewed upon more favorably.
Yeah,
Yeah, no problem.
whatever we can do.
Start with this. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the Director of Community and Economic Development to apply for the following grants under the Massachusetts One Stop for Growth Program, Underutilized Property Program for 329 High Street, Brownfields Program for 172 Sterling, and the Downtown Initiatives Program for Downtown Market Assessment.
I'm going to sit this one out, Mary, if you don't mind.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion or questions?
I missed the beginning, so I'm just going to abstain here, but I'm fully supportive.
Okay.
All right, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay. And if you do happen to schedule a meeting prior to June 2nd, I'll speak with Mike and provide you an update if you'd like an update, or if I think it's vital to provide you
Yeah,
an update.
absolutely, that sounds great.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks so much.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, so the next item on the agenda was to speak about the 2023 draft annual town meeting warrant and fiscal year 2024 budget review. Until Ms. Perouse arrives, I would suggest that we move on from that, and maybe we can get to administrative business and the abatements.
That's fine with me.
All right, so moving forward, administrative business, water sewer trash abatement requests for $1,418.42.
Mr. Chair, I move, I move that we approve water sewer trash abatements in amount of $1,418.42 from the last billing cycle.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me.
All right, let's jump into old and new business. We have a reserve fund transfer, legal costs, in the amount of $35,450. And this is needed to cover the cost of legal for the remainder of the fiscal year. What is the pleasure of the board?
Is there any, probably in the packet, probably the explanation.
I don't think there were many details, right, without, which would not be abnormal, right, because of the nature of the service.
Mr. Chair, I can just comment on that. Yeah,
Sure.
the request for 35,000, we do have the 5 collective bargaining negotiations, but the 35,000, really, the majority of that, I'd say probably 25,000 of it is due to a litigation we have ongoing with, it's a planning board appeal that involves a property on Grove Street. There was, I think in the last 9 months, there's probably been 5 motions that have appeared. We've been in court and we have a trial. Actually, the trial was scheduled for several months back. We had to prepare, do stipulations of facts, do, propose rulings of law, submit exhibits. The trial got pushed up, but now the trial is actually scheduled for May 30th. So I think the cost of that planning board, it was a special permit that was denied. The applicant appealed it to the Superior Court. It's been a pretty active litigation. So the majority of that $35,000 request is really as a result of that litigation. And we've been fortunate over the years, but this is one that it's required a lot of work.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, I'll wait till we decide on that, and then I just have a question to
Sure.
follow up.
Sure.
A general question, not pertaining directly to that.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a request from the reserve fund in the amount of $35,450 to cover the cost of legal for the remainder of the fiscal year.
I'll second.
Any questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just a general question. So, in those circumstances, is there any recourse for the town to be able to capture any of the fees associated with having to go through litigation on the denial of a permit? So whatever it is, it is.
Yeah, whatever it is, yeah. So it's a case like this, the applicant appeals it, it goes the distance of trial, which most of these, majority of them settle. This is a rare one. It's gonna go to trial. There's no settlement. There's no middle road. But, even at the end, if the court upholds the decision of the planning board, there's no recourse to recover your attorney's fees. So we're stuck with those fees, unfortunately.
Understood. All right. Old and new business. Would you like to come up to the table, please? Good evening.
Jody Rundell, We Community Connections, 272 High Street. I'm here just to follow up on my request a few months ago for funding for our new building through the ARPA funds, and I wanted to provide an update. We have since contracted with Worcester Business Development Corporation to help us manage the funding and the project, which is huge for us because, as I mentioned last time, I was learning as I go over the last year. So through that process, they've been on board since April. We've made significant headway. We have the next series of architectural plans coming out. We're also doing 2 plans, actually, to go along with the funding requests that we're making to many people. The reason why I'm requesting a decision on our funds through the town now is because of the conversations we're having with DHCD about grant funding from them. And, right now I have you or the town and 4 other folks as potential funders. I'm trying to get that into the committed funds section so that I can submit that over to the DHCD. So I know your hands are full with many things, but I just wanted to touch base tonight to see if you knew of when you might be able to come to some decision for that.
Any questions?
It's not on the agenda, so we can't vote on this tonight, right?
Correct.
Okay. Can we get it on the next agenda? I mean, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
When are we meeting again? I lost track, frankly.
That is, that's something we're gonna talk about tonight, but I think, Mr. Ward had suggested where, the schedule kind of got pushed back, so you were suggesting that we meet the second and the fourth Wednesday
Yeah.
of May, and then kind of handling tonight as a special meeting based upon the, warrant and budget requirements.
Yeah, I mean, this was a special meeting just to do the borrowing and finish the warrant, but if you wanted to make the second and fourth the formal meetings, but there's 5 Wednesdays in May as well, too. So, that's another option as well, and then go back to the first and third for June. So, whatever availability of the board is, that's fine with me.
So sorry, I was journalism major. So is that next week?
Yeah,
Next
that would be the
week,
4th.
We
The
could either meet-
24th is the 4th Wednesday in May.
Or we can meet the
Or we can meet
31st
the
would be the
31st.
other option
Okay.
if there's any
I've got a
conflicts.
TBC on here, so, okay. That's fine with me.
I-
Yeah, I mean, I can request to have it on the agenda for next week if the board doesn't have a problem with that.
I think I think we should start a lot of the, kind of, for lack of a better term, like low-hanging fruit, the stuff that we know that we're most likely in favor of approving, probably time to start kind of like rolling on those. So like fire department, police department stuff, there's those things I think are pretty, unless I'm reading the room wrong, I think those things are kind of like universally agreed upon by all of us. So I think it'd be a good idea to start knocking some of those off the list.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do need to kind of like move forward. You said that some of this funding is dependent on getting additional funding, or?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I'm all for putting it on the agenda.
Mhm.
And I think it would be helpful if we could get that list of ones we've like already committed to, and then just kind of get an update on that to see, make sure we all have the most, yeah, exactly. I think we have committed to a few so far, kind of where it stands currently, and then can move forward, like Ed said, move forward on a few things.
No, and I think we could go about the prioritizing
Yeah.
of, things that maybe the board agrees, or maybe things that the board does not view as being a priority at this time. At least we can give that department the feedback, so they're not waiting to hear otherwise. So then, maybe we can put that on the next agenda, and go ahead.
Well, the only thing I'd advise is just I think we should keep it to like maybe 2 or 3 things. I don't want to have a meeting where we get like 8 different departments in here for the same ARPA thing. So I think it'd be smart probably to keep it to like a couple for each meeting.
I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't invite.
Just discussion, like a
Oh, yeah,
general
there you go.
discussion?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like kind of maybe 2 things, maybe specific to the wheat funding, and then maybe just a general discussion on like what people view as a priority in their mind, and then maybe if it's universal, then we can kind of,
Well, just a suggestion, I think they were all in agreement with the police, so I agree with Julie. I think a couple at a time. If we are supportive of her request, and we're, supportive of the police, Jody's request, and the chief's, then I think it's makes more sense just to nail down the ones that everybody's in agreement with.
Right.
Yes.
And then you have, on that sheet, you had
yeah.
noted about the Chief Coyne's request as it is, so we could follow up with him in between now and the next meeting on if he is ready to come back to the board to present his final, his final decision, then we could do that. I agree.
I'll also move, Mr. Chairman, that we invite Jody back and the chief back next week.
Second.
Second, very good. Any discussion, questions? All right, there being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
you.
I just want to thank all of you too for all of your support of wheat and listening to this proposal with open ears and your patience as I kind of fumble through some of these items, but we can guarantee you're going to have a great building downtown, and it's going to fill a nice empty spot that's been there, and you've got professionals, we have professionals now working on the project who have done this many times before, so it's really going to be something that I think the whole town can be proud of, so thank you so much.
Well, and thank you for,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine how much work goes into this behind the scenes, so, you know, every time you come to the board with updates, you know, I know that's, you know, minute compared to how much really makes something like this even possible, so, you know, thank you very much for everything you and your team have done.
Yeah, and I'll add that weed was pretty integral, is integral every day in Clinton, and absolutely integral during the pandemic, so, and that's what a lot of these funds are for, so, thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you next week.
Good night.
All right, so we'll jump back to,
Yeah, so
Sorry.
Mr. Chair, just to finalize, just on terms of if you decided which, like when you wanted to meet, just so I know that the schedule.
Next week's fine with me.
Whether it's next week or the 31st, and if you're back on for June 5th, June 7th, just so that when things come up or departments are asking for approvals,
Yeah.
that we just know when to plan out.
Yeah, we
fine.
can decide now.
My only thought is to do 2 weeks instead of 1 week, just because people might want the extra time to get everything ready for the, you know, if we're communicating that we want to move to approve some things, people might need the extra time or want to get everything kind of like buttoned up and ready for the approval. I mean, I don't.
so are you suggesting what, the 31st and then the 1st of
Yeah.
June, so we would not meet next week, we would meet 2 consecutive weeks, 31st and then,
So, yeah, so then the 31st could be ARPA, and if there's anything pressing, and then just have the regular formal agenda back again on June 7th.
Sure.
Sound good?
very good, so
All right,
that
good,
works.
thank you.
So we're off next week.
We are off next week.
Right.
And then, all right, and then under old and new business, Mr. Devold had mentioned there was something you'd like to bring up.
What was this in regard to? Sorry.
You had mentioned regarding ALS.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at the, I was ready to talk about that, but I thought you were referencing something that was actually on the agenda. No, I think we should, I was wondering, you know, and we had a discussion last week about ALS and us working with the finance committee and the fire department. And I know we, about a month or so ago, maybe a month and a half ago, we had a joint meeting to try to get a lot of like concerns and questions answered and addressed. And I would, I'm just curious if, I think it would make sense to reach back out to the finance committee to see if at some point in the near future, we could do that again to kind of like, I don't know if we want to wait until after the election or because I know it's kind of a busy time, but I think it'd be worth just reaching out to them to see if there's an appetite for them to meet with us jointly again, and we can invite representation from the fire department to answer questions and just kind of like pick up where we left off last time.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're at the point now where we're very close and we just need to push over the goal line. So if we could all, like I think we talked about last time, just all get in a room and hammer it out, or figure out that there's some things we can't hammer out, and, you know, people have asked for a study. I think everybody's in, not everyone, I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm very much in favor of this. I want to be able to speak to it at town meeting, and I want the support of the finance committee. So I think we can get there. I just want to make sure that all the questions are answered and we're on board together on this, because I think trying to ram it through one-sidedly is not the best plan for something like this. I think the town should be in support of it, and I think the town would be in support of it if we have all the information. And I know it's been piecemeal back and forth, and I'm sure some of these questions have been answered. but I'd like to make sure that everybody can go into this wholeheartedly. So whatever that takes, I'm in support of.
Understood. Agreed. So,
As chair, you think you can reach out to the finance committee just to find out their availability?
sure. Would we want to put it on there for the 31st,
I'd be fine with that. I don't know if they,
if they're available?
yeah, it's kind of up to them. I don't know what their frequency of meeting is and if they're open to it, I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Sure. All right, very good, we'll do that. Anything else under old and new business that anyone wants to tackle right now?
No.
Very good, all right, so we're gonna jump back to,
Just the one other issue, Mr. Chair, on the open space recreation plan. Just if there was a list of the members from the last update of the plan, and just seeing if there's no opposition to that list, then the assistant town administrator was then going to work with those committees to get a designee and then advertise some citizen representatives, and then come back with some recommendations at a subsequent meeting of the board for appointment of the official committee. So we just wanted to present, the last time was Select Board designee, Parks Department, Recreation member, a conservation member, planning member, Greenway Conservation Trust, Rocha Farm, and 2 citizens. So if that sounds no opposition to that, then we can move forward with getting people to fill those slots.
Mr. Chair. Michael, I'm sorry, I wasn't on the board in 2016. What's the charge of this committee?
So in 2016, you had an open space plan, and you get public input. It
Yep.
gives you the goals of developing your parks, your open space. You have to update it every 7 years,
Okay.
and to be eligible for state grants, you have to have a current one, and we are not current with ours right now, so this would help us be eligible for grants. We did have that community compact grant, so we're in the process of hiring a consultant that will help us do the actual plan.
Great.
Mr. Chair, just one question. Why isn't Parks and Rec driving this? It just seems like a...
They're gonna be part of it, too.
Yeah, right, they'll be part of it, but it seems like I don't care. I think it's a good initiative and a good plan, but it just sounds like something that would be more of like their venue. Like it seems like specific towards kind of like a Parks and Rec.
The Parks and Rec director is on the committee to pick the consultant, because
Okay.
we got proposals, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
so the-
They are involved.
All right.
So the Parks Department will be very involved, but it's not only just like for their programs or their properties, it's really for conservation
Okay.
land, it's for rail trail, it's a whole overview.
Understood.
The last time it was done by Mr. Duffy from Economic Development, again, just looking for kind of more that overarching, so Assistant Town Administrator agreed to take that on this time around, so I think it's a good fit.
Perfect. Thank you.
awesome.
Do we need a vote on this?
Yes, to establish the committee.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we establish an open space and recreation plan committee with designees as included in the agenda. Interested individuals should submit a letter of interest. We're still going with June 2nd?
Yes.
Okay. By June 2nd, and we'll post all this stuff on the town website and social media. Okay, does that cover it?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, great.
Any discussion or questions? All right, thank you very much for this.
We're gonna vote though.
I'm all in favor, let me get the words out there.
I did that to him earlier.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Anyhow,
His
all
ribbon's
right,
off.
yeah, it is. All right, so, now, 2023 draft annual town meeting warrant and fiscal year 2024 budget review. Mr. Ward has a couple of updates for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of the warrant, the board reviewed last week and agreed to move forward with the articles. This week, we have a couple of new items that came up since last week, and then two issues that are currently on the agenda that may need to be revised. The first is the new, under the document I have passed out to you today, the new Article 11. It's for the community television operating budget. This year, they ran a little short, so we kind of upped the amount. It had been 175,000, kind of upped the amount of 225. Whatever's not spent does roll back into the fund. So we thought giving a little bit of a buffer there for them to, now that with Mark McBinn, they're up and operating pretty robustly now. And then the second, Article 12, is asking for $300,000 for a capital improvement outlay for the community television. It would be for equipping this room, the auditorium, looking for design and construction of a new studio, some major upgrades of major equipment upgrades that would be needed, control room that will be put in the hallway for all of the activities in the town hall. So by splitting out, there's an operations as capital, so that capital can stay and be used beyond, what's not needed during operations. Our hope was to put at least the operating budget into the overall budget to make it a department within the budget, but ruling that we just received recently is we can do that, but any money that's not spent would roll back to the general fund. So it wasn't, we would appropriate cable money to fund that, but if that money is not spent by an article, it stays with the cable fund. If it's in the budget, then that money would turn back to the general fund. So I don't think the intent was to take money from that fund. It was really just a easier way to budget so that it's more transparent and the line items are all in the budget and everyone can see what's being spent. But by doing it as the article, that money then will stay with the cable fund. So we kind of had to reverse our strategy, and that's why those two are here this week that weren't here last week. So.
It's kind of like a sneaky loophole to get money out of the public access cable fund.
Right.
That's weird.
Right. So those are those two. Article 15 is one that's being suggested by a solicitor. It would to set up a new opioid stabilization fund. We were involved in the statewide, in the national and state opioid class action case settlement, and we are receiving funding over a period of maybe 5 years. I think it is. I will be getting funding from that settlement. So the money has to be tracked and used for opioid-related purposes. So whether in drug enforcement or opioid treatment or education. So most towns are setting up a separate fund that the money can go into, and then you appropriate out of that and you're tracking how that's being spent. If it's just part of the general fund, now it's, well, was some of it in the the police budget, or was it for a specific program? How was it really being used? So I think the solicitor has indicated that a lot of the communities that his firm is involved with have been going this route, and that's their suggestion to go forward with. So.
Very good.
The other two that will be discussed will be Article 37, Article 38. Article 37 was to file a home rule petition for special legislation to remove the tree warden duties from DPW. However, based again on the board had asked for a solicitor to review that item in language or how that would proceed. And their recommendation is that the current home rule petition creates those duties under the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board now, but Board of Selectmen at the time, and that the Board of Selectmen then would have the authority to hire a position of Superintendent of Public Works and transfer those duties to that person. So the opinion is that they're really duties of the Board of Selectmen that are transferred to the Superintendent of Public Works, which they were done at that time and have been ever since. If those duties are to change, then it's something the Board of Selectmen could do without needing a home rule petition or legislation to do that. So if there's, I would, maybe defer to solicitor if there's any further discussion.
Yeah, that's accurate, because the 1963 legislation that, got rid of this, the sewer commission, the tree, the tree warden, the Department of Forestry, and to put all those responsibilities under the Board of Selectmen. And then it also created the DPW, but it didn't, not all those areas necessarily had to go under the DPW. The board controls that, so the board can designate what responsibilities go with which department. So if, it doesn't require a home rule petition, it would really just require a vote of this Board of Selectmen sometime in the future. If you think about it, some of the cemetery responsibilities are currently with the facilities department. We didn't, and the cemetery fell under this too, get rid of the cemetery back when this legislation was passed, but didn't require a home rule petition. The Board of Selectmen has that authority.
When we say facilities, does that mean like buildings and?
Facilities and grounds is the.
And grounds, okay.
Mr. Farragut.
So that,
Great.
and then I'll just review the last one, and the board just can decide how to take action on on those 5 from there. All the other ones should be similar. The last one is Article 38, which is a number of pages, which are recommendations from the Personnel Board for personnel bylaw changes. Those were drafted by the Human Resource Manager. They were sent to Town Council and Labor Council for review, and a lot of comments have come back on maybe a different approach to some of these changes. And HR, reviewing those comments this week, felt that there wouldn't be enough time to make those revisions to get to the paper by this Friday. So I think there is some steps. Some of the changes would need additional steps beyond just language changes. So she was requesting that be removed. The only difficulty is there isn't a personnel board, meeting this week to be able to get their feedback on it. So I guess it would have to rest with the select board to make the decision by Friday as to how to proceed with that. So again, if town council has any comment.
Yeah, the only comment would be, we got that just within the last week. There was proposed changes, and one of my colleagues, Corey Higgins, who works with Nick in the Labor and Employment Group, took a look at it. He had a bunch of comments and questions, and that feedback was provided to Christine, a day or two ago. So it's not just tweaking some words, just some back and forth. I think there's a little bit more of due diligence that has to be done. So I think that the time constraint of having this done by press, going to the paper, we have to have all information in by Friday, doesn't seem like there's enough time. So I think that's the request is made to take it off, continue to work it, and then if we have a special town meeting or it has to wait till next annual town meeting, we'll do it at that time.
So those articles will be removed, or do we have to make?
That's up to the board, that's up
Okay.
to the select board, so, yep, so these are, they're still been proposed, and it's really up to the select board then to hopefully take a vote on the final warrant, whether you take, individually, whether these get added or removed, and then just kind of vote the final warrant, subject to any final input from town council. On the union contracts, it's something I haven't discussed with town council yet, but that's something we're looking to discuss at the executive session, so kind of asking the board to leave open the possibility of maybe coming back into open session if need be. But 3 of those 5 contracts have been agreed to. There was a proposed settlement on one that happened this morning that we'll talk about at the executive session, and then some further discussion on another one that will be talked at the executive session. So the 3 that had already been done before today have amounts in this new document that I gave you. but the other two don't as of yet, because we're going to discuss them right now after this agenda item, so then we can determine when we come back whether those are going forward as well, too. So.
Very good.
Go ahead, John.
So we're striking 37 and 38, was that the plan? So 37 is not new language, we're just going to strike the tree warden? Okay.
Yep, that was the recommendation of town council.
38, and then there were
And I-
three more.
Right, and I had a question, Mr. Chair. If we're, Article 16, it looks like it's the old Article 11, looking for 25,000 from cable.
Yeah, Article 16, that is to support the remainder of this fiscal year. So,
Oh.
for the...
Oh, sorry, fiscal year 23.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
that's the amount that we're trending short for
Okay.
June 30th.
Gotcha.
So that would then put additional
Okay,
funding
I
in.
missed that.
So that, because we don't have a reserve fund transfer
Yep.
mechanism with that department, because it's a separate fund.
Yep.
So we would have to appropriate the money there instead of going to the finance committee.
I should have looked more clearly, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Mike, I know you did a good job trying to explain Article 11 and Article 12. I think I got like 95% of it, but can you just take one more stab at like just explaining that to me one more time?
Yeah, so Article 11 would be the operating budget for the community television department.
Okay.
So that would be for personnel, office expenses, subscriptions, telephone, all of that.
For 1 year?
For 1 year.
Okay.
That's their 1 year operating budget. Then the second, Article 12, that would be a capital outlay request that the director is asking for to help, get the final pieces in place for the town hall production, the control booth, the robotic cameras, and then starting to do a design. There's been a proposal to build a studio in the lower level of the town hall. So we would like to do a feasibility study and a design of what that would look like, what that cost would be, and if it's something that is within that budget timeframe after he does all these other upgrades, then there may be funding to start that project. If not,
Okay.
we'll have to wait to another town meeting. But with 300,000, he feels that at least to be enough to get that started. So-
Okay, and not to put you on the spot, if you don't know this, no problem, because I don't know it either, maybe I should. Do you know roughly per year what our intake is from the public access cable fund?
Yes, it is probably about 240,000.
Okay, all right,
So, but
thank you.
And there has been some money built up, so there is a reserve there,
Yep.
but.
No, I
that's
just,
about-
in general, I just wanted to see what our operating budget was compared
Yeah.
to our like yearly.
We get quarterly payments from Comcast, and they're in the amounts of maybe 58 to 62,000 quarterly, so in
Okay.
that range. So we average 60,000 average, is about 240, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I know that the cable director ran some things by the cable committee. We haven't voted on it yet, but I know I asked him, is the facilities department on board with his plan for the studio? Because I didn't hear back.
Yeah, I think he has been,
Okay.
I know that he's been discussing this with the facilities director, so, and I think they're pretty much in sync on that, we can double check. And again, this is just asking for a capital
Fund,
outlay
fine, okay.
appropriation.
Yep.
So it still doesn't, give the authority to spend
Gotcha.
without further discussions.
Yeah, I know we've been, we overdue on a cable meeting, so as soon as we get some free time, we'll pull that together, but I guess I appreciate his initiative for
Yeah.
plowing forward with this.
Yeah, so it's, at least for planning purposes, and, it doesn't wait another year to
Yeah.
get that funding.
Yep.
so.
Overdue.
All right, so then, what is the pleasure of the board as it pertains to the recommended removal and additions of several of the articles and overall approval of the warrant as it's been presented?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the annual town meeting warrant as presented with additions and deletions as suggested by the town administrative staff and holding open the possibility of adding specific numbers for any article that involves collective bargaining.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so then,
And then on the, for the budget, I just updated this as a draft that shows, after last week's discussion, of changes to the request, based on the ALS discussion from last meeting. So it would, put the, 4 firefighters that were moved from the ambulance enterprise to the general fund. It moves those back to the enterprise fund. So that created a savings in the fire department request. So those were the major changes from last week. I mean, there are a couple, again, as things are coming to light with the accountant and, shortfalls, we're kind of, tweaking requests and updates here or there and revenues as we go along, but those are the major changes from last week's document.
I'm just doing the math here.
Mr. Chairman, I just
Sure.
wanted to ask Michael, I know last week when we were presented the budget, we were looking at 500,000 plus, and now the bottom line is 285. So does that, most of that reflect with the moving of the money from? okay.
Exactly,
All
yep,
right.
exactly.
Okay.
any other questions on the budget as it's been presented?
Mr. Chair, I just want to double check on this. I'm seeing a projected deficit of almost $300,000. Is that, am I looking at the wrong numbers here?
Yeah, that's still the work in progress. I know the Finance Committee met today. Today, I wasn't able to attend that at 5 o'clock, and I know they're meeting again next week, so there'll be some final. And there's some other revenue sources that aren't included in here quite yet, so those will be added in. The assessors overlay, their reserve that they have for abatements, their balance has built up in that they don't need anymore, so they voted to release some money out of that as well too, so that can now be used as a revenue source to help offset that deficit.
So are we voting on the budget as it stands right now?
No, you don't,
Oh.
but yeah, because I think
Okay, it
it's,
doesn't need to be,
yeah, I think there's still, yeah, I mean, if there are items that the board wanted to make changes to for Finance Committee, before they finalize theirs, but I don't think the Finance Committee is done with this yet.
Okay.
So,
And that, the budget,
when does that need to be?
that timeline is, when do they have to post it for public?
yeah, so they have to have 7 days before town meeting, they need to have it posted with the town clerk. So, so I think they're meeting next week and having a public hearing on their budget next week, and then if it gets finalized, they'll post it with the town clerk at that point.
Okay, would you, I don't know how that is posted, is it posted
Yes.
through FinCom? So would it be possible just to share whenever they finalize that date, whenever it's posted with the town clerk, could you share that with the board?
Yep, absolutely,
Please.
yep, no, definitely send it to the board, and it does get posted with the town clerk, but also on the website. So I'll send an email with the information to all the board members, and we'll have it on the website as well, too.
And I think I have signed up for the alerts through FinCom, but I haven't seen one yet, so I'm, just to make sure that I don't miss it, that's all.
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions on the budget? All right, so just to jump real quick back to old and new business, you know, as far as the tree warden position, we've talked about it as far as, you know, we've talked about how currently the That budget rests under facilities and grounds and Mr. Farrager. And we have the superintendent of the DPW, who is currently the tree warden. I think for the purpose of improving efficiency, where if someone contacts the tree warden to look at a tree and then to prioritize, you kind of have two people doing the work, in a sense, because it gets handed off from Mr. McGowan to Mr. Farrager. I would propose that we move forward with transferring those duties from the superintendent of the DPW to the director of facilities and grounds. I don't know if anybody has any questions or concerns. I've spoke to both Mr. McGowan and Mr. Farrager about it, and there's no opposition to it.
Yeah, I mean, can we put it on the next agenda?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just didn't, yeah. Yep.
All right, community announcements. So just, again, to reiterate, on Saturday, May 20th, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., they'll have the Clinton Cleanup Day, which is sponsored by the Clinton Rotary Club. These efforts will help clean up Clinton and the parade route. They'll be meeting at the Clinton Police Station at 9 a.m. for supplies, and everyone is invited to participate. If anyone has any questions, they can contact Terry Ingano, and Terry's email is terryingano@gmail.com. That's terryingano@gmail.com. Just want to see, I don't think that was, I think that was it for announcements. Rocher Farm presentation. Join Gloria Parkinson at the Bigelow Public Library and learn about Clinton's Rocher Farm on Saturday, May 20th, 2023 at 10:30 a.m. Rocher Farm is 62 acres of town-owned conservation land maintained by community volunteers. According to Mr. Ingano, he thinks that maybe there's just about a good hour of cleaning if they get enough people to show up, and then they can jump right over to the Bigelow Library for the Rocher presentation. For the only race that is taking place in the upcoming town election, the Clinton Cable Television will be producing the Meet the Candidates night for the Select Board. There are 3 candidates for 2 seats. That will take place on Monday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. in the Select Board chamber. It will also be streamed on the YouTube channel, as well as presented on the local access television, local access cable television channel. And I did skip over committee reports, but I don't think there are any.
We don't have any this week.
All right, so we will be moving into executive.
Okay, sorry. Can I?
Oh, yeah, go
can I
for it.
I just want to shout out to the Clinton High School, Clinton Middle School band and chorus who had their spring concert tonight, and they did a fantastic job, so congrats
Pitch
to them.
perfect, it was lovely.
Excellent. And on that note too, we had last night the town takeover at Polar Park.
Oh, yeah.
The town of Clinton, there was, from what I was told, the town of Clinton sold out the takeover section.
Wow.
And there were quite a few people out there that had purchased tickets around the park. It was a great event, and that was awesome.
Great.
So, Mr. Ward did a little presentation on up in the press box booth during the game, and was able to promote Clinton. So
Maybe we can make it an annual thing.
absolutely
That'd
right.
be cool.
Yeah, well, we're giving attaboys out. While I didn't win the Clinton Tribute Road Race, sadly, It was a terrific event. Other than the running part, everybody had a great time. It was very hot, and it's a very hilly course. But congratulations to all the honorees. There was a terrific after-party afterward, and it's great to see the town come out for a race like that. I'll get them next year.
Are you moving up in an age division, like moving up in a division?
No, I'm still in the 50s, sorry.
Got a couple.
I
All right.
finished way back.
So we will be moving into executive session under Article 3, collective bargaining update. We may return to open session. At this time, I will accept a roll call to move from open session to executive session.
Ed DeVault, aye.
Sean Kerrigan, aye.
Julie Bruce, aye.
Mary Dick, aye.
Matt Kovasai, thank you very much, and we will see you on May 31st, Wednesday, May 31st.
Or possibly.
Or maybe later.
Maybe later.
Stay tuned, right?
Big market tease,
Or
yeah.
today, yeah, or later today. Thank you.